Vanderbilt will shock South Carolina, Virginia Tech in a historic start to the season. It's Locked On Vandy. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Thank you for joining us. And you can find this wonderful podcast anywhere you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to the everydayers. Now, all right, FanDuel. Like I said, this episode was brought to you by FanDuel, right? And football season's right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. Now, on this episode, we're going to talk about historic, shocking teams. There's a notion that there's a possibility and a notion that Vanderbilt could conceivably be 5-0 heading into the Alabama game. But how is that going to happen? We talked about kind of like what they need to do to prove it, like generally speaking, but like there's like a whole mind shift within the Vanderbilt program. I think some people on the outside are starting to catch on like, hey, maybe this team, they could be for real. Now, are we talking about college football playoff? No, we're not there yet. If we're being realistic, we're not quite there yet. We need, you got to take the first steps, right? And you just got to win them one at a time, honestly. But this is exciting because I think those possibilities are a lot more tangible than they were this time last year. So for that much is very exciting. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a little offensive line development. Coach K, he had some immediate availability, and he did not disappoint with some of the quotes he fired off. This is why I love O-line coaches. And I wish in my future life, if I ever get back into coaching, I want to become an O-line coach, and I want to spout off lines like Coach K, because these are gold. All right, we'll talk about that. And then overcoming sloppy practices. It is a staple of fall camp. So we're going to talk about what that means for a team, and for a team that's trying to get over the hump and stay over the hump, right? And overcoming sloppy practices is an inevitable skill that you have to learn throughout fall camp. So we'll talk about what that means. But honestly, like Vanderbilt, this is uncharted waters, okay? Now, when you talk about historic things, right? It was a historic turnaround and a historic season that saw you beat the number one team in the country for the first time in program history. That saw you beat Alabama for the first time in 40 years. And the last time they did that, Kurt Page, who's a regular guest on this show, was your quarterback. You saw historic road wins. You saw road wins at Kentucky and at Auburn, which Vandy doesn't win at Auburn very often. Kentucky, I'm not sure about the season, the series record, the all-time series record with Kentucky. But given Vanderbilt's record over the last decade, they probably lost more times than not over the last decade to Kentucky at home and away. So I would just imagine that record's not very good either. So it's a whole mentality, and it's a whole shift in things, right? And honestly, you add some pieces that kind of help develop that mentality, because, where it started was like as a university, when they hired Clark Lea, they understood that, hey, we're going to have to start the process of going all in. Okay. And I don't mean this as a jab by any stretch, right? But Clark Lea was a defense coordinator at Notre Dame, which is a very prestigious university, and he was being considered for some head coaching jobs, but he wasn't an overly prominent name in the coaching search and the coaching search cycles that year. He was getting some attention, but like he wasn't like the slam dunk coordinator hire, right? And there's people like that every year. So like he was just that particular year. He was somebody that people were potentially interested in, but like Nobody was really talking about him, right? Vanderbilt hires him. He struggles, obviously, because he walks into a bad situation. But on the underside, this mentality was developing. This chip on the shoulder mentality was developing. This mindset that led to the historic moments that took place last season and the ones that are going to fuel the future historic moments. Hopefully, what I'm thinking is in the near future. That mentality was born the day Clark Lea stepped foot on campus, right? And Candace Story Lee had this to say. I think we're tired of what people thought Vanderbilt was. So we're able to show them who Vanderbilt is and what we want to be. There's nothing wrong with that. It is motivating, right? So they're starting to act now. They're starting to participate. They want to have that chip on the shoulder mentality. They want to be, okay, this is who we are. We're going to bust down these doors. We're going to say, okay, forget old Vanderbilt. We're going to move in. We're going to participate in NIL. We're going to be competitive in that market, and we're going to show people that we belong. That's the mentality all along, and that's what they've been trying to do. They just hadn't been able to do it. You saw it. You saw flashes of it in year 2, where they beat Anthony Richardson and the Florida Gators. They beat Kentucky with Will Levis. They had a couple other nice wins throughout that season, but those were the 2 most notable. They just barely missed a bowl game that year. And that after year 2, you were thinking, okay, hey, we're off and running. Like, hey, Vanderbilt, hey, the country was like, oh, okay, like not bad Vanderbilt, because they were 2-10 the previous season, and it was god awful. It was abysmal. But they were just getting started. So you had that mentality was building, and you've always had that grit that's been there. You just like things just didn't go your way. Year 1, year 2, you showed some improvement. Year 3, I think I think things were a little bit overzealous as far as like Clark Lea backing off of some of those things, like calling the defense and some of the things he probably regrets backing off of. But year 4 figured it back out, got the ship back right on tracks, got the right people in. And that's part of this mentality. That's, hey, we're going to go out and hire the best. We're going to go out and get Jerry Kill. Like, we're fortunate that he was wanting to come here, right? And the health issues and all that, like, throw all that aside. Like, that guy is, when you talk about a winner and a program builder, that guy's amazing. And had it not been for health issues, I honestly think he would be a major P4 head coach, probably with a national championship or 2. Like, I think he's that good. And and what I really respect about Jerry Kill is this. He's going to go to a program that is a complete dump, essentially. He's not afraid of that. It seems like he craves that. He thrives in that. Like when he went to Minnesota, they were awful. He got them respectable. He set the table for PJ Fleck and what Minnesota is now. He set the table for that. And he would have had a historic run there. Like, you hire that guy to come in and help you with your mindset and help you build your program. That's an amazing hire. And people are like, oh, it's just Jerry. And they want to give Jerry Kill all the credit. Well, who hired him? Clark Lea. All right. So, that move right there set a bunch of things in motion. Getting Diego Pavia, who's basically the younger player version of Jerry Kill with his mindset. You bring him into the program, right? And when you talk about he embodies chip on the shoulder. That's just what he is. And that's what Vanderbilt needed, right? You coming off a season like they had in 23, that's what you needed. And that's what's going to drive this program forward. And with this documentary series on Netflix, you're seeing that take place. You're seeing that mentality. You're seeing behind the curtain, unfiltered, what this program actually looks like and operates like. And honestly, it's got some great championship DNA. I mean, Clark Lea's, his coaching career has been pretty good. He's had some great examples of guys to learn from when it comes to building programs, when it comes to shepherding this whole thing, right? He's had some bumps along the road. Okay. No good journey goes without bumps. Okay. We know that. So it's amazing what he's been able to do and what he's going to do going forward. So what's going to fuel that is this. Like, you have Diego Pavia, all the media appearances. There's a reason why Clark Lea didn't come out and squash any of that. There's a reason why he didn't pull him back. There's a reason why there was no, and I guarantee you there was probably no behind the scenes reprimand, because deep down inside, Clark Lea's like, I love this. This is amazing. He's galvanizing the team. The team bought in hook, line, and sinker. They're having a great camp, by the way. So when you see all these improvements, it's fueled by a mentality of, hey, we're going to stop at nothing. We think we're a championship program, and we're going to act like it. And that's the first step of being a championship program. Despite what you say, despite where you've been, if you have that mentality and you keep proverbially chopping wood, you're going to get there. And with a guy like Diego Pavia, it makes it possible. With a performer like Eli Stowers, he's not much of a talker, but he's a guy that's gonna bring everybody together. He's a guy that's gonna just go flat out and get after it on the field. Like, he's going to back it up. You have a defense that just, when you talk about chip on the shoulder, like, those guys are pissed. Like those guys are going to play, and those guys will play, and they have played. Like, they're offended that you're on the field with them, right? They want to punish you. They want to make you have a miserable, miserable day. That team, that unit just ran out of freaking gas and ran out of bodies. They just got banged up last year. I think they had a great mentality. They'd get after you. They'd fight you as long as they could. They just didn't last very long. They're much deeper now. This roster is much more loaded. There's a lot more things to be confident in. And so that's what's going to carry what I believe is going to be the historic run. This is the reason why I did a crossover with Chris Marler of Locked On Gamecocks and proclaimed that Vanderbilt was going to win that game. And by proclaiming Vanderbilt was going to win that game against South Carolina, that is a historic step. This is a 16-game losing streak, and it's Williams-Brice. There's a reason why I believe that. And I'm not just saying it for clicks. I actually believe that. There's a reason why I think it's going to be 5-0 going into Bama. Right? All of this. It's a mentality. It's a shift. It's not coach speak. If it was coach speak, Diego Pavia wouldn't have been allowed to do half of the appearances he did. It's there. Right? It's there. It's all across the board. So it's a mentality. And it's a mentality I guarantee the offensive line is going to carry with them as well. How are they developing? This is going to be a fun group. We'll talk about it next. All right, FanDuel. Like I said, this episode was brought to you by FanDuel, right? And football season's right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, right? So I want to talk about FanDuel for a second, okay? August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel's giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment, August 26th. So take a flyer on an MVP race, right? My pick for MVP? Well, I think it's going to be Mr. Hard Knocks himself. I think Josh Allen's going to break through and win that MVP, right? Who's my champion? I get asked that a lot at school. Who's my champion? I'm going to say Philly. And I'm going to say Philly. That's my early champion, okay? And then, division winner dark horses. Like, I think the Titans they're a dark horse. Watch out for the Falcons. Watch out for the Titans. Those are my teams, all right? So it's going to be an exciting season nonetheless, man. So visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Future Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Locked On Vandy, thanks for making us your first listen each and every day, man. This is exciting stuff. Football season's right around the corner. If you need a second listen, Locked On SEC is the place to go. Chris Gordy, shout out to all the family of SEC shows like Locked On Sooners, Locked On Ole Miss, Locked On Auburn, Locked On Gamecocks, as the aforementioned Locked On Gamecocks, all of that. The entire family of shows. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great season. You should be excited about all that, and I am for one. So, talking about chip on the shoulder mentality, this is what's going to drive this team. This is why I feel confident about this team, because they have the mentality over at the McGugin Center that's driving all this. Like, hey, we're here. We're going to prove it. And as Clark Lea said on the Netflix documentary, we're going to earn some blankety-blank respect. He had a few choice words there, but it's the mentality that, like, it gets you fired up, man. It really does. Like, it gets you where you want to be. It gets you, it's fired up, right? So speaking of fired up, man, I'm so envious of O-line coaches, man. They're some of the best people, man. And I'm not saying that because, we're about to talk about the offensive line. I've coached all the offensive positions. I even coached linebackers for a brief moment in my 15-year coaching career. But being an offensive coordinator, I've run through the cycle of all the offensive positions. I did offensive line for a couple of seasons, tight ends, running backs, quarterbacks one year, which was kind of funny. I've done it all. Wide receivers one year, and that's kind of been across the gamut, man. And coaching offensive line is so much fun, man. Those guys are awesome, man, and it's great to put those puzzle pieces together with the blocking schemes. I love all of that, right? It's just the fun part of being an offensive coordinator, man. It's just the blocking schemes, making everything fit in a puzzle, making your patterns, and making things flow, making the game flow. And when you have some success and you see those big guys running off the field and just all excited, man, they're just like, it's some great stuff, man. It's something that you want to see. It's a group that you want to be excited, because when they get excited, dude, they lift the entire team. It's true. Like they say, you make the key to making a good football team is make the offensive line happy and allow them to dominate. That's true. It's a very true statement, right? So Coach K had his media appearance, which he should have more of those. He said he had a lot of things to say about the offensive line, but this one stood out here. He said, talking about the standards of the offensive line, talking about, hey, where's your offensive line? How do you feel about the offensive line? This is just like one of the first questions. He says, well, it's never where you want it to be, because our expectation level is very, very high, and our demands are very high, and our standards are very high. We're on the right track to get to where we want to be, right? That is an offensive line coach to a T, right? Never satisfied, but like it's always up here. And if you keep punching up there, you're eventually going to connect, right? And this is a comment of like, hey, we feel really good, but we know we got a long way to go, right? And it's encouraging, because like you hear about the struggles, you hear about the penalties, you hear about the gelling issues, but those things, like that's the essence of practice, right? If you read a practice report and it's perfect, I would hate to see what that practice looked like, right? I don't ever want to read a perfect practice report, like, right? I want to see that some guys are getting freaking beat. I want to see that my right tackle or my strong tackle is getting beat on pass pro, right? Because like we know we're going to fix that. And if he doesn't get beat, the defensive line probably didn't go hard, or I don't know. Like if he doesn't, I mean, obviously I want him to win reps. Don't get that wrong. But I want to see him lose a few times too. Like I want to see how he responds to that. I want to see how, does he lose a rep and go to the tank, right? Like, does he try to fix it? Does he take the coaching? Like, how does he develop? Like, how does he gel with the rest of the line? How, you got to work out your communication issues somehow. So you make a few mistakes. So what, right? I love that. So, the standards are always up here, man. Like, and the coaches are never really satisfied. You ask an O-line coach, typically it's, we sucked. It's typically that, right? And sort of by design, but those, offensive line coaches are typically your more pessimistic guys on staff anyway. When it comes to asking about player performance, because they want those guys to be up here, and they'll probably never get like way up here, but like if they get here, hell, we're in a great place, right? So that's what I'm talking about. And the challenge that Vanderbilt's facing right now is the new faces, right? And he had this to say about that, right? That's one of the deals. There are a lot of new faces. We had to blend in some new faces last summer, but we've got more new faces to blend in, but we've also got more competition than we did a year ago. And that creates for good things because it keeps people hungry. It keeps people working, right? And this is the thing. Like I said, the key word in here is competition, right? And there's Cade McConnell right there, who might be the starting quick guard. Competition is the biggest thing here, right? In that statement, because it forces, like when you don't have a lot of competition, which I don't think there was as much last year. So I think the development was a little bit stunted, and it was really stunted in the spring because they didn't have much the previous spring. This spring was a little bit better, but the more competition you can build within the offensive line, or any position really for that matter, but since we're focused on offensive line, when you got new faces, like it forces them to really lock in, and it forces them to say, okay, we got to get this done. We've got to figure this out, because if I don't, hey, there's a guy that's been in the system. He knows the system like the back of his hand, but he's not as good of a player as I am, talent-wise. Like, I got to figure this thing out, right? That's probably the inner dialogue that's going on. He's like, man, this guy's not better than me, but like, holy cow, this guy makes no mistakes, right? This guy's freaking clean. I gotta do some things myself, right? That's the inner dialogue of an offensive lineman if there's competition. If there's not, you're just like, nah, I'll make some mistakes. I ain't gonna get benched, right? And so I love what this quote means, right? People are hungry. People have the chip on their shoulder. They want to be elite. And they have a chance to be, especially as a rushing attack. They have a chance to be elite. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about this offensive line. So I just thought those two quotes really stood out to me as far as that goes. So I'm really fired up about that. But when you talk about sloppy practices, man, like talk about a chip on the shoulder mentality, how does that tie into having a great practice and being able to bounce back from a crappy practice or a sloppy practice? We'll talk about that next. Well, I want to talk about Wayfair first, though, because, man, as the summer winds down, there's something about getting into a nice routine that you love, and Wayfair makes it easy to set yourself up for the season ahead. From bedding and linens to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair is your one-stop shop to refresh your home, right? There was an item I grabbed. It was an end table, right? It's just like one small end table just made a huge difference in this room, right? And it's been the perfect addition. Like, it really set the room off. Like, I was able to sit some things on it. Like, it was great, man. And I got it at Wayfair. And the delivery was fast and free. And, it was convenient. I could find everything I needed. It was all in one place. And the price fit my budget. All that stuff, man. And I really loved it, man. And that's my favorite part about Wayfair. It's just, it's so easy. So the perfect time to get my home ready, whether you're organizing or upgrading or my workspace or making weeknight dinners easier, man. It's just a place to go, man. So get organized, get refreshed, and get back to a routine for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, wrapping up the show here. Locked On Vandy. Thanks for making us your first listen. Subscribe, follow at Locked On Vandy. We're building. We're cruising towards 750, which means all we need is 250 more of you to get to 1,000. So come on, keep coming, right? Keep subscribing. Get on this thing, man. Well, I want to listen. As much as I want Vandy to be 12-0, I want to be 12-0 in the podcast world, man. I want to be the best too. And I'm certainly trying to push that way. And I think with the help of you guys and the help of you guys so far, You guys have made everything possible, and I love you for it, right? So let's keep this journey going. Let's keep building, right? This thing is slowly catching on, right? And I'm very excited for it. I'm very excited to be in this position. So, but I want to talk about sloppy practices, okay? Because you read a report about sloppy practices, you get the reaction, and I think it's natural to be like, oh boy, okay, here we go. Well, finally we're sloppy. Our backups suck. You read that a lot of the starters were probably out. You read a lot of injuries, and I think some of these are training camp injuries, which means if we played a game against Bama, that they would probably be going. So I wouldn't read too much into that until they miss significant time throughout the season. Martell Hight's probably the only one I'm actually worried about as far as injury goes. The rest of the guys I think are just banged up and they're on a plan. So nonetheless, sloppy practices. Like the reaction to those. How are you supposed to react? What is like when you see those sloppy reports? Like like I said, you have to fight the notion of, okay, this team had a garbage day, so that doesn't bode well. But really, a sloppy practice is this: we're all humans, right? Except for Brock Bowers, he's an alien. But I think when you have a sloppy practice, and I've been through my fair share of sloppy practices as a player and a coach, and some days you just don't have it anywhere on either side of the ball. Some days you just don't have it. And some key guys are out, and you get there's going to be certain guys that'll show you why they're down far on the depth chart, and you'll get a good glimpse of why. And there's some guys that are just, checked out. Is it a bad thing? Well, it's not a great thing, right? And you ask yourself, okay, well, is it a bad thing? No. Is it something to panic about? No. Is it something to be concerned with? Possibly. But like overcoming a sloppy practice, like they've had one before and they came out and had a really nice, really great session. Actually, the next session before was highly competitive practice where it just seemed like they were clicking on both sides of the ball, making plays equally. So it's just, here's where, it's an opportunity. Okay. You have a sloppy practice. This is an opportunity for your leadership here to say, okay, this is not acceptable. Right. Because if you look at the list of sloppy practices year to year to year, they're going to happen. So it's never if you're going to prevent it from ever happening. It's how you respond when it does. How do you try to get yourself out of it? Whether it's in the same practice, which once you kind of hit that downward spiral, it's just kind of a wrap for that day. But the next time you come out there, how do your leaders respond then? How do they rein it in? How do they hold everybody accountable? How do they just, hey, you suck, you suck, you suck, you suck. You had a crappy practice. You had a crappy practice. We got to be better. Or is it, hey, follow me. We're going to get out of this. We're going to pull out of this tailspin that we're in. We're going to get right. And it starts with me, right? How many leaders are like that? And when you have that, when you have the, hey, it starts with me, that's when you know you're in a good place. And I think Diego Pavia is probably there. And Diego Pavia will probably tell you he didn't practice and in this most recent practice. And he'll probably tell you that had he been practicing, it would have been a better practice. And he wishes he would have practiced. And, that's what it feels like to, he probably felt like he let down his team, which he didn't really let them down. It's just an opportunity for those guys to grow and for those guys to evolve, for other leaders to evolve within the team. So sloppy practices are, unless there's a bunch in a row, I really don't think it's anything to panic about. I think it's hard to call somebody a bust if they have a bad practice, because that's, because there's a lot of factors that go within that. Now, if they have a really bad string of bad practices, or if it's just glaringly obvious that, like, not only did they lose their reps, but they got smoked in their reps, okay, maybe we can start looking at this is a disappointment. But otherwise, I think sloppy practices are good for you. I think they're good for the soul. I think they're good for the leaders. Like, I think they're good for a lot of things. You never want to have them, but when you do and you learn from them, that's when they're the most valuable. That's when you can say, okay, well, here was your chance to lead the group and you didn't. So next time do XYZ, right? Here's your chance to really recognize that, hey, I've got to be dialed in. And you have all those chances to just self-correct, to lead, to finally get somebody to snap out of it. All that stuff. You have opportunities to do that thing. So overcoming sloppy practices is not never having them. It's not having too many of them in a row or back-to-back ones or whatever. Okay. So that's where we're at on that. But overall, it's the mentality that drives that, right? If you have a great mentality, if you have a great culture, if you have great leadership, you don't have too many sloppy practices. You have very few. When you have bad leadership or non-existent leadership and your head coach looks like he's on his way out, that's when it's concerning. When you go like 3 in a row, then you're like, okay, now we're starting to stink a little bit. So just think about that. But also think about this as you're watching this Netflix documentary, as you're reading all these articles about the team and what Feinbaum is saying or what the 3 and Out podcast said that they're going to win over 6 games, or like all the graphics that come out when you're listening to me proclaiming that we're going to beat South Carolina, when you listen to Diego Pavia say we're going to run Tennessee. Like, when you think about all that stuff, think about why it's happening. Think about why Clark Lea is not stopping any of this. Think about why this team can actually make all of that happen. It's the mentality. And I'll leave you there. Chip on the shoulder mentality. It's almost kind of stubborn, but it's what you need. It's the kick in the rear end that you need. So, speaking of that, we'll see you back here next time. Locked on Vandy. My AC's working. See, I'm not sweating bullets tonight. So that's a good thing. But we'll see you back here next time. Anchor down. Peace.